Hi, and welcome back to our kitchen. I'm so glad you came back to join us. You know my recipes are gluten-free, dairy-free, whenever I can get it in there, but today I'm going to show you how to double a recipe. Some people say, well, you double the recipe, you put double everything in. Well, I'm going to show you you don't have to do that. Now, first of all, what my recipe is today is Easy Sloppy Joes. Now, I got this recipe from my daughter, and it calls for 1 pound of meat, ground beef. 1 pound for us does not last very long because we eat leftovers. So I'm going to do 2 pounds today, convert the recipe from 1 pound to 2 pounds, and show you how we do it. First of all, when I make my hamburger, before I freeze it, I flatten it down like this in the bag, get as much air as I can out of it. The reason I do this is, number one, to make more space in the freezer. Number two, it thaws easier. Now, hopefully y'all got a defrost button on your microwave. And you can use that. Learn how to use it because it comes in handy. If you put in 2 pounds of meat, it'll time it maybe 3 minutes at a time, and it'll tell you turn it over. It actually beeps and tells you to do that. It's a time saver. So let me show you about what I'm going to do with the Instant Pot. First of all, I'm going to put it on saute. Down here at the bottom is a saute button. Now what I want to do is to wait till this gets hot. And the reason I want to do that is because you don't want to put meat into a cold pot. It has a tendency to stick to the bottom, for one. And the other is, if you're doing this on the stove, you don't necessarily mostly have to put any olive oil in the bottom of your pan. Main reason we're doing it in the Instant Pot is if things get stuck on the bottom here, it has a burn button, and you don't want that. So let me show you what I'm going to do. I'm going to put maybe a tablespoon or 2 in the bottom. And as soon as it turns hot, we'll put the meat in. Now also, I like to break the meat apart as I'm putting it in there. That helps with the chopping of the meat, because you want your meat to be fine, like you would have in a sloppy joe. Now this recipe goes back to a simple recipe that I'm sure all of us had when we were kids. The cafeteria kitchen would make this for all the kids, and we really enjoyed it. The quandary with new cooks is they get a recipe and it's not really explanatory as to how to double a recipe or what to add or anything like that. So what I want to show you is you don't have to double everything. And as soon as this gets hot, I'm going to put the meat in, start chopping it, getting it unstuck off the bottom, and then I'll show you the rest of the steps. Okay, now I've chopped up my meat, and as you can see, because this is 80-20 hamburger or ground beef, there's a lot of liquid. Plus when you freeze it, this happens too. So I'm going to strain it. Now, I used to be able to hold a pot over the sink with a lid on it and flip it over and strain out the grease. I can't do that anymore because my hands will not hold on to the pot that well, and I end up throwing half of it down the drain. All you do is take your pot out, and I've got a strainer here with a sieve and a bowl. Never ever ever drain these into your sink. If you drain oil into your sink, you're going to clog up the sink, the pipes. Put it back in. Wow, look how much grease there was. Grease and water, I should say. Now we want to continue cooking our meat and add in all the good stuff. Now, the original recipe, as I said, calls for 1 pound of meat. Well, to make it 2 pounds, the original recipe called for a medium onion, and a can of green chilies. A lot of you don't have this on your shelf. So what I did is I took my little food processor and I chopped up the onion, and I took half a bell pepper, chopped it up. Actually put a carrot in here. Don't tell the kids. This is how you get veggies in them. And also a couple little stalks or one stalk of celery. And I'm going to dump that in here to start cooking. Also, there's like 4 cloves of garlic. We like our garlic. You can add less, you can add more. It's up to you. You don't like peppers? Don't put them in. Just use your onions and your garlic and whatever you want. Now, the original recipe did not call for this. It called for 1 medium onion, which I always just add a half because I'm rationing right now. I can't see adding a whole onion in there. Now, when you go to 2 pounds as opposed to 1 pound, still only add half an onion. You don't need to add a whole onion. And it, of course, it asks for the bell peppers, garlic, and I'm going to cook this off for a little bit. Cook those veggies up. Try to make the meat a little crisper since we got rid of that grease slash water. This will only take a minute or two. Notice I'm holding the chopper with my hand like this. Ever since I got arthritis, it's easier to do this way. Now, while that's cooking, the recipe calls for 3/4 of a cup of ketchup. Well, in order to double it to 2 pounds, you don't need to put 2 3/4 in there. All I did is went up to 1 cup, which is only 1/4 of a cup more ketchup than originally. That way you're not wasting it. I mean, it just doesn't make sense to double it in. And then 1 tablespoon of brown sugar. I used 2. It's in here. 1 tablespoon of mustard. I used 2. And I did Dijon. Use the regular yellow mustard if that's what your family likes and has. And then a tablespoon of red wine vinegar and a tablespoon of Worcestershire sauce. But on both of these I added 2 tablespoons. And I'm going to stir that up and make a sauce. Get that sugar dissolved a little bit. See how these are going. Don't worry about getting them tender. We're just doing this a little bit to heat them up because the Instant Pot will cook them when they get in there. I mean, when we set the Instant Pot. I hope you like and subscribe my channel. I'm basically new to YouTube. I've only been here 3 months, and I'm trying very hard to show you step easy recipes as well as gluten-free, dairy-free recipes. Now, let me stir this in. Some recipes say put a tablespoon of tomato paste, and I'm not going to open a whole can for that. Plus, I would add 2 for 2 pounds. But another helpful hint is if you do open a can of tomato paste, to save it, put it in a small baggie and then flatten it down real thin, freeze it. So then when you need some, maybe 2 tablespoons, you take it out of the freezer, let it thaw a little bit, and then break off what you would think would be 2 tablespoons. Another thing that you would not probably do if you were doing this on the stove is it calls for, in the 1 pound recipe, a half a cup of water. Well, I have some beef broth that's gluten-free that I need to get rid of. And this looks kind of juicy to me, so I'm only going to add the 1/2. Even though I put it at 3/4. Oh, what the hell. I'm going to stir it up. And the reason I'm adding the liquid is because in order for your Instant Pot to come to pressure, it needs liquid. If you don't add liquid to this, and I'll show you at the end when it's done how to get that liquid out of there. If you don't do this, it won't pressurize and you'll get a burn notice. So I'm going to go ahead and put the lid on. It's still on saute. I always have trouble. There it is. Make sure your knob is sealed. I always like to push down on the seal, and then I'm going to push cancel to take it off of saute. I'm going to push pressure cook or manual. I don't know what kind of pressure cooker you have. And then 5 minutes is all it's going to take. And as soon as it pressurizes, it starts cooking. That may take 10 to 15 minutes. And then when it's done, we want to let it sit for 10 minutes to depressurize on its own. And when we come back, I'll show you what it looks like and how to get rid of the rest of that juice in there. See you in a bit. Okay, it beeped at 5 minutes. I let it normal depressurize at 10 minutes. Then I let the steam out. I always use a thing like this because I don't want to get burnt. And I'm going to show you what it looks like and what we have to do to it. See, it's still got a lot of liquid on it, or in it. I'm going to press the saute button again, and we're going to let it come to a boil and boil some of this liquid off. Now what you got to do is just keep an eye on it. Let it boil. Just make sure you scrape the bottom every once in a while so it's not going to burn. Now the saute button's at the more setting, and I'm not going to set a timer or anything like that. So just go ahead and let it start boiling. Now as you can see, it's still a little bit juicy, but you can see how much it has reduced since we started. It's getting thicker every minute. And I had forgotten to put salt and pepper in here, which to me is important, but I only add a little bit, and then I taste it later on to see if it needs more. I've been trying to get away from the salt usage, and but I don't like bland food, so see how thicker it is now? It's almost done. Yeah, you just let it sit here and boil vigorously, and then that juice boils off and reduces. Now at this point you can serve it. I'm going to show you what I do with my gluten-free buns. What I have here is Shar buns, and they come in a package that do not need frozen. But I like to put it in the microwave for 20 seconds. It makes it real soft and warm. Other buns that you have to have frozen, you need to let them thaw out. And what I do is, see how puffy this top is? On another bun, I would cut that off and put it in a toaster and let it toast. I could even do these, but I'm not going to today because I kind of like the cushiony bread. Now I'm going to use a spoon like this with the holes in it, and that takes that juice out too. Oh, look at that. I'm going to turn this saute, I'm going to push the cancel button and turn the saute button off and just let it sit and do this for a while. It's not going to hurt anything. Now I hope I have shared my tips with you today to help you double a recipe. And I'm going to taste this now. Oh, you know what? It's kind of hot. Nice and sweet, just like the people in the cafeteria used to make you when you were a kid. I didn't get fancy with it, I kept it simple. And sometimes that's the best when you have kids, is to keep it simple. I hope you will help me out and leave me in the comments if you have any recipes that you want me to convert from regular to gluten-free, or help you out with anything like that. And I hope to see you next time when you come back, and watch at the end for some bloopers. Thank you very much. Subscribe, like, comment. Love you. Bye. Hi, welcome back to our kitchen. I'm so glad you came back to join us. Today I'm going to be hitting on some helpful hints that new cookers, duh. Hi, and welcome back to our kitchen. So glad you came back to join us. Today I'm going to be hitting on a quandary that you new cooks. I'm sorry. Okay, it beeped at 5 minutes when it was done, and I let it sit for 10 minutes on the depressurization.